Hey guys, welcome to the Touchdown Table. I'm Ryan, that's Tyler, that's Jordan. And boy, am I so happy to be able to say that we are doing a Big Ten 2020 prediction video. There was so much uncertainty, so much doubt, but now one of the major conferences in college football is back. We're going to have to wait a little longer to see them, but they are going to play this fall, and shout out to the players and coaches and administrations for fighting to make that happen. And then the schools really, the health professionals too, everyone played a part in this.
They got to play it safe though. It's glad to be back, but it's not going to mean anything if players aren't being precautious, the coaches aren't being precautious.
No fans or anything either. So
I don't think they're going to do that. That could change too. Because remember as well, initially they weren't even going to play it. Also, so glad to have the Big Ten back. It's going to make the college football season much more interesting.
Now we just need Pac-12.
Yeah, come on, Pac-12. Now they're the odd ones out in the Power 5, so we'll see if they can get something else.
Like, there's actually some good teams that we want to see in the Big Ten. Then you go to the Pac-12, and it's like
there's Oregon.
There's Oregon, but. I mean, besides Brady Breeze, maybe he's one guy who I really want to see play because I know he had a good year last year. There's not many people that stand out.
He opted out already, But he can still be a top 10 pick for sure. But I believe that every college football playoff contender is playing. I don't think Oregon would have quite been there. Speaking of contenders, let's pick the Big Ten Conference Championship, who we think is going to win and who we think they're going to beat. So how's that sound, Jordan? You lead us off.
Yeah, and before I start, I just wanted to say two last things. So first of all, I don't think we mentioned it. The season for the Big Ten is set to kick off on October 24th of 2020. So like Ryan said, we're going to have to wait a little bit. But it's going to be worth the wait because this should be a fun division. And we also have to shout out Justin Fields for that petition. You have to think that it was a big part, or at least some part, of getting the Big Ten to play football again. So a lot of work that went into it, a lot of conversations, and it's happening. So without further ado, it's here, and we're not looking back now.
Also,
we're looking
thanks to
forward.
Bob Carpenter. I don't know if you guys know
Matt Carpenter.
Bob Carpenter. He was a former Ohio State player. He was a huge part of getting the Big Ten back. So
a lot of people
gotta recognize.
I don't know who he is.
General Bob Carpenter.
Yeah, anyone who helps the Big Ten football come back, we thank you.
Yes. So we're not looking back. We're looking forward, actually, and we're looking to who we think are going to win the East and the West and the Big Ten. Starting on the west side of this division, I have Wisconsin going, and they will be playing on the east side, Ohio State. Now, I don't think this is much of a. I don't know why they're both smiling at me.
We were just both satisfied that you choose two East teams.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's not much of a surprise. These are probably the two teams that will be picked the most to win these two respective sides of the division. There might be some difference at the table. I actually don't know. I know one of their picks, but I don't know Tyler's picks just yet.
You don't know mine.
I do know yours, actually. I know your game. But Wisconsin, they lost Jonathan Taylor, got on my fantasy team, but they're still a good team. I like Jack Cohn. I think they got another good running back as well. We'll talk about later. And they still got a decent team around them, so I don't think they have to worry too much. I think Minnesota might be in contention in that side of the division, but I think Wisconsin is going to be able to take it. They've been pretty good for a long time, up there for a long time, especially with Taylor. And then, like I said, with Ohio State, there's not many other teams that are really huge contenders. You could put Penn State up there, you could put Michigan up there, but I really see Ohio State as it's going to be a really, really good contender, not just in the Big Ten, but in all of college football. I could see them going to a national championship, playing Clemson. That's not my prediction, but I'm just saying I could see them going farther. I love Justin Fields. I love the offense, and that defense is still pretty good as well. So those are my two predictions. We'll get to talking more later. Ryan, what do you got for us?
All right, so I've got one of those two teams that are the same as yours, and I'll start with the one that was similar. Ohio State, I have coming out of the Big Ten East, and honestly, as of the day we're making this, some big news for Ohio State was just announced. Shaun Wade, their star cornerback, first-round prospect, opting back into the season. Also, one of their guards, Wyatt Davis, opting back in once they realized they're playing in the fall. And honestly, when I looked at Ohio State's roster and making my weekly rankings for college football, I think it's
you gotta make your rankings.
You gotta make your rankings, and you gotta evaluate them. I think Ohio State is right up there with Clemson. I had a hard time picking who's number one, but I went with Clemson. But Ohio State is gonna be a true contender this year in the Big Ten and beyond. And there's a reason that Ohio State and Ryan Day and Justin Fields were at the forefront of this fight to get the Big Ten to play, because this team
They know they can win.
They've got some unfinished business. We know the way last year ended. The this with Justin Fields, the Chris Olave route. Well, he's a guy who's going to be back on miscommunication.
He's still a great receiver.
He is still a good receiver, and this team
so is Garrett Wilson.
This team is stacked, and some people think it's the best team in the country. But if you have this team lower than number 2 in your rankings, I really don't see any explanation for that. It all starts with Justin Fields. He's a playmaker. We saw it last year. He'll be a Heisman contender this year. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, good weapons. And again, the offensive line is solid. That Wyatt Davis opting back in was huge for them, and I think that's going to give them momentum. But also their running back position. They got Trey Sermon from Oklahoma. Master Teague's another guy who they already had. And then this defense is solid. And this team undefeated in the regular season, conference champions, and played a hard-fought game against Clemson in the semifinal last year with a first-year head coach. So this team's out with a vengeance. They'll be back in the Big Ten championship. But who are they going to play? They're going to play the Minnesota Golden Gophers in the Big Ten championship. Yes, they're going to play. They're going to play Minnie. Yes, they are going to play Minnesota. No, they're going to play the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And this is a team that I think really took a step forward last year. They were kind of the breakout team. And you really wouldn't expect that, but
because they didn't have much of a chance.
No, they didn't. You never know. Things can change with Minnesota. So I really, sorry, I really think that this is the team that you're going to have to pay attention to. Some people are telling me no, don't buy into the hype. Move on, pick another team. No, I'm still in on this Golden Gopher team because I believe in Tanner Morgan. I already did some scouting on him for the 2021 draft, so I'm glad that I'll get to see him and the rest of this team in action. I think PJ Fleck is a great coach for this team. He's a leader. He's a motivator. Brings energy to that locker room.
And he's a hype monster.
He is a hype monster. You see him running down the sideline. You think he's one of the players if he wasn't dressed in coach stuff and having the headset. But this is really a team that I think is ready to take a step forward and win the Big Ten West. I think they're all there. We saw it last year. They were a young team last year. Let's not forget that. They have not reached their peak, and I think that this team is poised to take a step forward. And 5 years from now, they could be the current version of Clemson or Ohio State. I really think this team has such a bright future. Wow. So I don't think it's time to give up on them just yet. Believe the hype. I really do, because look at what this team did last year. PJ Fleck extended, well deserved. Although it's going to be a little more difficult for Tanner Morgan because Rashad Bateman opted out.
Maybe he'll opt back.
I would love to. He's the top 3 receiver for the 2021 draft right now, in my opinion. Tyler Johnson, I do have some thoughts about him, but he is obviously, in the NFL right now. But this team, they still have the weapons and the coaching. Their wide receivers, right now, Demetrius Douglas, Chris Ottman-Bell, who I remember from last year did some nice things, and Seth Green. And I think this team's got it. I think, they might not have the big names. Remember, they didn't have all the big names heading into last year, but we saw guys break out. We saw this team take a step forward. So I don't see any reason why they can't do it again and take even a further step forward and get into that Big Ten championship game, which is what they could not do. So I have Ohio State and Minnesota in the Big Ten championship game. And who wins?
I didn't say who wins.
Oh, you didn't say who wins?
No, you go first.
Okay. I have Ohio State winning the Big Ten championship. I was tempted. I like Minnesota, but I was tempted. But
we know
they're gonna leap, but they're not gonna leap that far. There's a bright future for this team. So yeah.
And Ryan, before Tyler goes, I'm just gonna agree with you. I have Ohio State winning. I talked about how good I think they're gonna be. Their roster is just completely full. Offense, defense, all positions on offense I think are really good. Their defense is pretty great as well. So I think Ohio State's gonna be a menace in the whole. I almost said National Football League in the whole FBS.
Well, half those players are probably going to be in the National Football League at some point.
You're talking about LSU?
I don't know about that much.
In general. All right, well, I'm going to cut to the chase here. Of course, I have Ohio State in my Big Ten championship game here. It's just, it's so obvious. They're always there. I don't think these teams are going to beat them out. They're too good. They're too stacked. Justin Fields coming back. Like Ryan said, they got a stacked offensive line, the offensive lineman coming back. You guys have really explained it well. I'm excited for what Chris Olave is going to do this year on offense. They got 2 good running backs back there, which is going to be really exciting, a dual threat offense. Not to mention their defense, not as good as it was last year. Obviously, the loss of Jeff Okudah was a big one. But still, they got plenty of playmakers and will continue to throughout their history of that football school. So it's exciting to me. I think they get back to yet another Big Ten championship. Who are they playing, though?
They're playing Wisconsin.
They are not playing Wisconsin. They are playing Minnesota.
Yes!
So me and Ryan both bought into Minnesota.
We did.
Well, we really did. I love Minnesota. I will say.
Okay.
Minnesota and I go way back here. I mean, I've been a fan of Minnesota for a long time.
Okay.
Gotten to know them very well.
Yeah.
Even more well than Ryan has. Just being around, watching games, understanding Minnesota more and more, really getting to know them. And that starts with their roster, obviously, with Tanner Morgan.
Baldy?
Yes,
He
the
did it
Baldy.
again.
He's got some hair. I mean, cut him a break. Looks like there's something in there. But it starts with him. I'm really excited. He just looks mature. You look at him, Jordan. You mentioned that he's bald. It makes him look mature. I think we're going to see progression from him this year. I hope Rashad Bateman comes back. That would be huge. A huge step with Minnesota succeeding. Young guys, as Ryan said, it's very important to mention that because it's not for sure that this is going to happen. This is kind of like a hype thing.
Yeah.
And you have to hope for it. Defensively, they played well throughout last year. I think that continues. A lot of their defense still there. Lost my favorite man in the world, Antoine Winfield Jr., who's doing good for the Buccaneers so far. Got to mention that. But still going to be solid. And then P.J. Fleck, their head coach, I think is just so incredible in terms of recruiting, in terms of just leadership. I love it. I think that continues on. They had a pretty good recruiting class as well in the offseason. So exciting stuff for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Yeah. I love Minnesota. I'm excited for Minnesota to succeed. And Ryan, I'm with you, man.
All right.
Minnesota,
there
let's
you
go.
I
agree.
I'm surprised I'm alone with Wisconsin over here. I'm okay with that, though.
I still got to pick my winner.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Calm down.
Got a little too
we got a lot of time after you.
All right. No need for a drum roll, but let's do it anyways. Drum roll. Yeah, Ohio State. Okay. They're too good. This is the powerhouse in this conference. I think Minnesota, if they are in this game, will keep it close because of how amazing Minnesota is. But the Golden Gophers come up short. The Buckeyes, once again, win the Big Ten.
I'm just going back to last year. Remember, with Wisconsin, they actually almost won that game.
Yeah, and
Ohio State had their comeback.
Yeah, I was thinking, had Wisconsin won that game, I really think that they had a strong argument to be in the playoffs over Oklahoma. Because then they would have avenged their regular season loss against Ohio State.
And you saw what Oklahoma did in the playoffs.
Yeah,
they were not good.
And like Wisconsin,
so you destroyed them. They ripped them to shreds.
Yeah, Wisconsin beat
Tear
Iowa.
them apart piece by piece.
They beat Minnesota last year. They beat Michigan last year. I really think if Wisconsin won that Big Ten championship against Ohio State, canceling out their regular season loss to them, then they'd have that loss to Illinois, but then Oklahoma would have that loss to Kansas State. We could honestly make a whole video on that what-if scenario, so I'm not going to go too in-depth.
I did like Wisconsin.
Just something
they were.
about that.
I mean, they didn't lose that many people either. They lost.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some notable. It's not like they lost many huge names besides Jonathan Taylor, who I talked about earlier.
I mean, they lost Zach Bond on defense, too.
That's true. I wasn't a huge fan of Zach Bond, honestly, but
I mean, I was right there with Wisconsin. I almost went with them, but things are changing with Minnesota, and that was just huge for me, too.
So on a scale from 1 to 5, what do you have?
A 5.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Speaking of, we'll go ahead.
I mean, I don't think we're going to see any playoff berths for this team or anything, but I think from their division, they're going to be easily the best, and I think they're going to put up a fight against Ohio State. But let's talk about some other teams in the Big Ten. Really quickly here, just a couple of mentions that we didn't talk about, because this video actually has gone on longer than I expected to at this point, so let's just throw a couple teams out there.
All right, well, I'll throw Penn State out there first and foremost.
Yeah.
They still have a decent team. They lost some guys. One guy that I really like is the running back, Journey Brown. As you know, Saquon Barkley went to Penn State, and you know what he's done so far. And I think Journey Brown reminds me of Saquon a bit. And he's just a very good running back from what I saw so far. Sean Clifford, the quarterback. Don't have too much to say about him because I can't analyze him yet. I just like his name because it's Clifford. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie. But Penn State, they're a decent team. They had some notable losses last year, but they still got some people on their team. I think this is going to be a good year for Journey Brown. Watch him throughout this year.
Yeah, and then just a couple other teams we can mention. We'll talk about Michigan as well. I mean, they're always there with Ohio State in the Big Ten, and then they just decide to lose.
They're always there to lose.
They're always there to just get demolished when it matters most. So I don't think they succeed. I think they'll have a good season, but it's not going to be much. And then let's talk about Iowa as well. We have to mention them. I think that crossed our minds when we were talking about who was going to make it from that side of the conference.
Iowa just feels like their team has kind of just fell apart.
Yeah, and they've lost a lot of players.
They did.
They lost Nate Stanley. They lost Tristan Wirfs. There's more of them. So they lost a lot of decent players on defense. There's really no standout player on defense. Exactly right, Geno Stone. I really like him. There was no standout player on that defense, but there were some good pieces that they lost. You said one, Geno Stone, and Ojemudia, I think it is. Epinesa, absolutely. Epinesa. Yeah. I said it wrong, but yeah. Epinesa. Put in the comments if you know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Draft joke with Trey Wingo.
I think someone. All right, so there it was. Our Big Ten predictions. We're happy that it's back. Both Ryan and I have Ohio State and Minnesota in the Big Ten championship. We're both big fans of Minnesota.
Yep.
Jordan, Wisconsin, and Ohio State. We all have Ohio State winning. I'm sure
that's no shock.
Too much of a surprise. You probably expected that as you clicked on this video. But thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel if you like what you saw. Make sure to like this video just for the Big Ten being back. Subscribe to our channel, like I said. Hit the notification bell. Comment your opinions about who we picked down below. Let us know your predictions for the Big Ten Championship. And with that, we will see you guys later.
See ya.